Well, hello there. This is your podcast host. Hey, this is Yadita, and you are listening to Epilepsy and Special Needs. It's a podcast that I put up specifically for you, and you. And even if you don't know someone who has epilepsy, they're dealing with a chronic illness, you're definitely welcome here. Who am I? My name is Yadita Span. I'm an author of a book entitled Don't Give Up. It's on Amazon. I'm also a book coach, motivational speaker, and a purpose coach, someone who just likes to push people towards their purpose, especially after they've gone through a difficult season or time. And so I'm here today. I want to talk to you. I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to the other episodes, but I would love for you to go back and take a listen. Also, I have another podcast that is called Pep Talk with Yadita. It's also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, and the main thing that I love to do is encourage. I know I'm an encourager. It's something that I love to do, and I just find it very easy to do so. So why not do it if you find it easy to do so? So today, I want to talk to caregivers in particular. And even if you're not a caregiver, but you know someone who is, I want you to stop and listen. Why is that? Because what is the thing that they said when we were younger? Knowledge is power. They say it even today, that knowledge is power. And so just because you or I may not be affected by a particular thing doesn't mean that we shouldn't take time to learn about it. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't take time to hear about it, because maybe one day later on we may be a caregiver. I was a caregiver even of my mom before she transitioned, and now I'm a caregiver of my beautiful, beautiful girl. And so those of you who have children who you are caregivers for, let me just, hold on. I like to put my little effects on here. This one's for you. I'm giving you a special topic today. I know you probably know that. Even if you're not a caregiver of a young child, that's for you too. Caregivers, you rock, you are selfless, you make it happen, you keep going, you keep looking for resources, you keep on just finding out what to do and talking to doctors and being the advocate for your child. And so I just want to say to you, you rock today. You are so awesome. So awesome. And you deserve to be celebrated in every way that there is to be celebrated. That's how I feel about caregivers. I'm a caregiver too, and I know what it's like. So let's talk a little bit about the life change that happens when you have to caregive or be available for your loved one. The life change. I think sometimes may or may not think very much about the life change that happens, but you know all about it. I can share my story. I'm a mom, so I had a child who at the time was in lower elementary. I feel like we were going to kindergarten around that time, and epilepsy happened, right? And so for those of you who know what it's like, especially when your child is not born with the condition, and even if your child is, there's something that you know that you have to get ready for. You know that you have to kind of, dig your heels and take a stance that you are going to be brave and strong for your loved one. But sometimes I wonder, do you always have someone who's brave and strong for you? And if you do, thank God for that, right? Because having to deal with it alone, what's the word that I want to use? I mean, it can just be difficult, not because of your loved one. And I'm going to, take our loved one out of to the equation, because we love our children. We love our parents. We want to be there for them. Yet and still, I want people to start to think about the reality, right? The realness, the real part. Y'all hear that bird out there singing on my podcast? Go ahead and sing. All right. So it's like, think about the real part, because sometimes I almost feel like some caregivers feel guilty. You know, mom guilt. You know, you have your beautiful child, and some days you just feel like, oh gosh, am I doing this right? Can I do this better? How come it seems like she's got her meals prepped and all of these other things, and you see her, Susie Q, with her apron on, and her house is clean, her hair is done, and her makeup looks great, and all of these things, and then you're like, you look at yourself, right? And your hair is, piled up on top of your head, and you're not thinking about even putting on makeup because you probably don't even care at this point, right? You know how it is when you get ready to have your child and you're like, oh, I'm going to have my hair like this, and, and I'm just going to lay down, let me put my mascara on. And before you know it, you're just like, I don't care about my mascara. Stop wiping away, the mascara that's dripping down my face from the tears. Forget about it, right? All of that stuff we go through sometimes. I'm not going to have an epidural. I'm going to be brave and strong. And then you're like, give me the shot. Put it in there, right? These are the things that we go through in life. And I know it seems funny at the time, but believe me, when we were going through it, it probably wasn't very funny. And then to go through that, and sometimes, to hear even before your child is born, that there's a problem. I remember even myself, I was a little devastated when I had what was she now? Was she a midwife? I feel like she was a midwife, and we did some tests, and she came back and she gave this very grim prognosis. The only thing for me though, so I'm a woman of faith, right? I love God, and I know He loves me. He loves you too, whether you know it or not. If you do, praise God. If you don't know yet, He does, even when things aren't going the way that we want them to. So she gives me this thing, tells me this, but I had dreamt about my daughter way before I ever had her. I remember the dream so vividly. I was in this room, and later on I was in that very same room. The very same dresser was there. I believe that God can give us visions, and, I believe in the prophetic, where God speaks, something for the future, a warning or something that's good or whatever it may be. And so I dreamt about this beautiful girl and in that room with that dresser, and I woke up, and I remember the look that was even on my face. And I woke up and I said, well, whose child was that? Because that can't be mine. I don't have any child, I didn't even see that on the horizon, right? But yet years later, it was the same little girl, the same beautiful girl, my daughter in that room with that very same dresser. And so she gives me this grim idea. And, yes, I felt in my emotions like, oh my gosh, right? They actually ran the test twice, the blood test, because she was like, there's got to be, something going on wrong with the machine or whatever. And so I was like, But I remember leaving that office, and I had just the saddest look on my face, and I felt so down. And I remember saying to God, I said, but God, that's not what you showed me. That's not what you promised me. You didn't show me that. You showed me a little beautiful, perfect girl, right? And so I went back and I prayed again, and I switched the doctor, right? I went somewhere else because of what she was saying, what she thought I needed to do at that time, and I wasn't going to do that, all right? So for those of you, I guess I'm putting this out there for those of you who have received, and sometimes you may receive a grim prognosis or something like that, but it doesn't always have to be so. And if you are the one who is going to be equipped to take care of this special, beautiful, exceptional child that you will receive the grace that you need as you continue to go into the presence before God, sometimes crying, sometimes weeping. Jesus wept, and so do I. I feel like making a banner and a t-shirt. Jesus wept, and so do I, because oftentimes when things don't go right, regarding even our children, we end up feeling like, well, maybe it's my fault. And yes, maybe you did some things before your child was born, maybe even during, that caused certain things to happen. Maybe so, maybe not. Thank God that we can ask God for forgiveness, right? We can repent before God. Lord, forgive me, please. I made a mistake, and this, that, and the other. And then pray that God will give us the grace and strength. And listen, it's not always that as a parent you did anything wrong. Don't believe that. And don't let people cause you to feel that way. Oh, it's your fault that your child. Do not believe the hype. That's what I want to say to you. We live in this world. It's imperfect since the fall of Adam and Eve. And because of that, sin came into the world. And I'm not going to go into that. I'm here, but it did, right? And so that's, things are not perfect. There's an enemy. Things are not perfect. So don't blame yourself. Even if you did do something that you felt attributed to the illness, I want you to stop today. Ask God for forgiveness. Ask him to just wash and cleanse you. Tell him, you're sorry. I do that all the time anyway. I think I make it a habit of finding ways to tell God I'm sorry for what I know about and what I don't know about. It's part of my daily life. Why? Because I want to be in fellowship with him. I want to let him know how much I love him. And I don't want to feel ashamed or guilty about anything. So I ask God forgiveness so I can be released and freed from self-condemnation or condemnation from people or whatever it is. So back to this. So I prayed, went before, the Lord was like, Lord, that's not what you showed me, right? Sometimes he will give you a glimpse of what is to come. And I went to a different doctor and things changed, right? Did it change because I chose to stand on faith, on hope? Sometimes that makes a difference. And why not do it anyway, right? Whether it would have changed or not, I still would have had to stand on faith and on hope. That's the thing we need to realize. Whether things go exactly as we want them to, we still have to buckle down and say, God, I need your help. And so, that changed for her. So it wasn't until, later on in kindergarten where we experienced the situation with epilepsy. And believe me, yes, it was shocking. And I had to make some changes. So here's another point I want to say to you. Do not believe or feel when life happens and things shift that you need to try to keep going in the same straight line with the same rigorous schedule, trying to do the very same things when you have something new, something that requires a different level of attention. Don't think that you have to keep being like a super mom. Do not compare yourself to anyone else. Yes, you may see Susie Q. And if your name is Susie Q, I don't know you. I used to eat Susie Q's. They were like chocolate cakes with cream in the middle back in the day. So anyway, if you look at Susie and you're just like, that mom, that family, that, they look like, we don't know what happens when people go behind their closed door and they shut it. I get it. We're in this age, in this world of social media perfection and filters. And I love looking at social media. I look at certain people's pages and I get the biggest kick from looking at their pages and the biggest amount of encouragement from looking at others. And then there are others I scroll quickly past because I know that what they're talking about is not going to benefit or encourage or uplift or help me. And so I am careful and cautious about what I allow to come into my space, because as a caregiver, you are giving, you're releasing, you're pouring out constantly.